Hey y'all. So this week, when you come in to do your lessons, we are going to be talking about Adam and Eve, the first sin. And some of the activities are repeats from a few months ago when we talked about a really similar topic. But now that we're going in order, I felt like it was really important that we went back. And one of the activities that didn't get used very much or at all was the color changing one that really points towards the hope of Jesus in this whole message. And I think it's important because so much of this message is going to be focused on we all make mistakes. All month long they're going to hear we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Humanity has fallen. They're going to hear this down message, and we need to mix in the hope of Christ in that message. And so don't skip this. It lists it actually as an optional. But I would suggest you don't make this one an optional. This is really important for them to hear and see this. So the way it works, it's got some flexibility in it. But you're going to have 3 cups that look like they've just got water in them, like I've got here. What you're going to do actually is one of them is going to be about half full of bleach. So in your room, you're going to find one of these. You'll actually find 2. One of them is bleach and one of them is oil, so don't get those mixed up. Make sure you smell it before you use it, or you'll end up with oil and it won't work, and then you won't have oil for later. Also, make sure you only use half of it because the other service needs to use it too. But this should be enough to do it twice, if not more than that. But you actually don't want much water in your cups because you need to be able to fill them back and forth. You want less than half full. Go for a third full or less. It's still going to be very visually striking even with small amounts of water in. So I've got one with bleach. This one's going to represent Jesus. The way I would suggest doing that is have the kids take on a persona or make a little beard for them out of scrap paper, or however you go about distinguishing them as you're sitting at the table. When you set one aside and say this one's going to represent Jesus, this one's going to represent sin or mistakes, because mistakes is one of the easier ways for kids to kind of connect to that, and this one is going to represent you or me. And so what you do to start this is you set these out, you've got them distinguished with kids so that they can tell them apart and know like which one's which and what's going on here. So sin, mistakes, are something that they kind of dirty us. You know, they feel wrong, we feel ashamed when we make mistakes. And so you're going to take food coloring and just put 1 drop inside the water. When you first put that drop in, it's not going to mix real well. It's just going to kind of sit in the bottom. And so that's why another reason we've got these great big things is because you can take it and stir it around and really highlight. Like this is a deep blue. Just 1 drop of water will get this a pretty, or food color, we'll get that a pretty blue color. And so you talk about how this is sin and how it muddies the water and it's harder to see through, and that's how our mistakes are. And you can use whatever analogies you want at that point. But then you can talk a little bit about the Adam and Eve story and talk about how when they first ate the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, they felt shame. And this stuff kind of dirtied them up a little bit too. And so you pour just a little bit in here. And you say, there was still a lot of good in Adam and Eve, but it had messed them up a little bit. And when we make mistakes, sometimes it makes it a little less clear for us too. And so they can see like clearly the pure sin one is a darker blue and us is a light blue. That will actually go well as the object lesson goes a little further. That's where you can talk about hope. You can talk about the fact that Jesus came to free us from our sins, came to take away those sins. And that when we have Jesus in our heart and we follow him, that it cleanses us and it allows us to live in a way that's free from the shame and the guilt, because we know that we're forgiven. And so you can kind of talk about that as when we allow Jesus in our heart, it's like pouring a little bit in there, right? When you first do that, it's not going to appear to do anything, or not much of anything. This is where you need to do a little pattern. You need to talk a little bit. Because the longer you wait, the more clear this will get. And you've got to be patient with it, and you've got to kind of talk through it and give it time and space. You could even come back to it if you felt like you needed to. For the little kids, that one might be a really good idea, to come back and see, like, what is the impact that Jesus has on our life over time. And even here in this video, you start to see it clearing up a little bit. I'm going to move on to the next part, and you're just going to have to trust me, because at the next part, I'll make sure you get to see it all the way till it's clear. But from there, you can actually talk about how Jesus didn't just come for you or for me. Jesus came for everybody. Jesus came to take away the sins of the world. And so this is where you can take the sins of the world and pour it into the Jesus cup. Now, when you do this, like I said, this is a dark blue, and so it taints all of the water at first. And so you've got to trust a little bit. Make sure you mix it in real good. And again, you'll start to see that it gets clear a little bit, but I can see in the video feed it's actually still looking pretty blue from that angle. But what I will show you is this one that's been sitting for a little while. Most of the blue is gone. Give it a little bit longer and all of the blue will be gone. The same will be true of this one. Give it a little time and all of the blue will be gone. Again, you've really got to be patient with it. You've got to wait it out. I will take a picture of it so that you can see it completely clear. But yeah, just half of the bleach and time. That's all you're going to need for this one. I really encourage you to use it. I know that it's not, visual in your face in the same way that a magic trick is, but it's pretty impressive that as we do nothing to this, it will get more and more clear. This one's clear now. And this one's the light blue. So give it a shot. I think you'll like it. I think your kids are really going to dig it. And most importantly, it's going to offer hope into a message as we talk about mistakes and the fall of humanity for an entire month. It can get pretty bleak and pretty dark if we're not adding some hope and light into that. So don't forget to bring that into the message. Thanks, y'all.